Good afternoon. Tony Casey here with the Techology Show. We want to let you know that this segment is brought to you by Oklahoma Wesleyan University, impacting culture with the Lordship of Jesus Christ. To learn more, go to okwu.edu. Today we want to discuss the morning service here at the General Conference, one that just thoroughly impressed me. This is my fourth General Conference. I've had the privilege to come 3 times as a delegate. And more than any other conference, this one really impressed me in terms of the international flavor, in terms of kicking things off and really getting our eyes off of the North American church and the realization that the Wesleyan church is growing around the world and bigger than the North American church here. I've got guys here to discuss this with me all the way to my right. Dan Irvine, ministering in Haiti. The European director right here to my immediate right, Denis Jackson, and to my left here, a wonderful friend and companion on the South Carolina district. He does Hispanic ministries for South Carolina district, Frankie Rodriguez. Guys, this is just kind of a free-for-all. Let's talk about the service this morning and just some of your impressions about it. And again, this idea of just the international flavor that we saw and the sense of the church is growing around the world.
Yeah, it really is exciting. You know, one of the things that, because I'm just new into this, 2.5, 3 years into Global Partners, been, familiar with them for a long time, but as an employee for just that long.
Sure.
We positioned ourselves several years ago through some just great missiological leadership to say we're going to release the church around the world, and we're seeing the fruitfulness of that. It really is taking on a life that's apart from North America, and yet intricately connected, and I think we celebrated that so well this morning.
Dan, one of the things that impressed me was when you got up on stage and you talked about how the response to Haiti in terms of relief organizations was very slow. Right. But why don't you just pick that up there? You talk about the Wesleyan Church and its response to the earthquake.
Well, it was an incredible contrast to see that because with the exception of some really short-term emergency and relief organizations who do nothing but that, the response on the ground from the professionals was very slow and very disorganized. And the Wesleyan Church response was virtually instantaneous. Interestingly enough, when communications went down after the earthquake, the one thing that didn't go down was the internet. Yeah. And within hours, literally within hours, we spent a good share of that first night organizing response, and within hours, within 2 days, there were people headed our way. And there were people who had from their end figured out how to get into the country that the airport was closed. I mean, people were creative and they were passionate, and it was, I've said many times to people, in the midst of the horror that was Haiti at that moment, the one thing that could have made it worse would have been to be there with no resources and no response, but we were never in that position.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
The people, not just Wesleyans, there were others that surrounded us with friendship and with support, but I was gratified, somewhat restored my faith in humanity to see the very best of God's image in people come out in that time of incredible need.
You know, one of the stories that I heard just on like one of the probably Good Morning America or the Today Show, they were talking about the 9th Ward in New Orleans, and after the hurricane came through, and then there was some immediate response, but as time went on, it kind of got off the nation's radar screen, and there was a gentleman there, and he said this: the story of New Orleans 2 years later is that. It's the churches that are rebuilding New Orleans. Yeah. It's not government agencies. Yes. And I mean, couldn't you speak to that in terms of Haiti right now and what you're all still doing?
Absolutely true. The interesting thing is, and I don't want to sound overly critical of these organizations that people contribute to and so forth, but the fact of the matter is that the faith-based organizations were there first because they work there. Yeah. We have networks, we have vehicles, we have employees, we actually know people who live in the country. You know, we have these fabulous contact points, and we're instantly in connection with people most affected. And we, in my opinion, formed the best delivery system. I think without any question, we were able to most effectively use the resources that became available to us. And third, we're the most durable. We're still there. We were there before, and we're still there.
That's right.
And
That's right.
you know, we're still making a difference. And faith-based, church-based relief and development. Of course, I'm not objective, but I think that we're certainly the best delivery system for the church. And I get a little disturbed at times when people choose to send their resources other ways. But like I say, I'm certainly not objective. So.
Yeah, we could do a whole little commercial there. Yeah. Dr. Wilson, H.C. Wilson, throughout the morning kept referring to the North American bubble. So if someone was just tuning in, went on YouTube to watch this video, how would you define the North American bubble and how he was using that?
Interesting question.
No one wants to touch that one.
I'll shoot something. I know he can't. He wouldn't be able to not jump in on this.
Be thinking, because you're going to answer it next.
The truth of the matter is that North Americans have a tendency to think that the rest of the world lives pretty much the way they do. And the truth is, with exceptions such as the South Pacific countries of Australia and New Zealand and some of Europe, or a lot of Europe, and some little spots around the country, the fact is that that's not the case. And that, by virtue of the things that we enjoy as middle-class Americans, it puts us in the top 5 to 3% of the world's wealthiest people. And I don't think that hits home to people until they get overseas someplace, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is more like the way the rest of the people live. And we tell our visitors, the electricity is an inverter system, and if you use it up now, you won't have fans tonight, and it's foreign. And
sometimes they use it up, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And then all of us have to sweat the rest of the night. Or take military showers. We buy our water, or God gives it to us when it rains. And it's just like, this is foreign language. These are foreign ideas. So when we talk about the bubble, at some level, we're talking about the lifestyle.
Yeah. What would you add to that, Dennis?
I think for us in Europe especially, it's not just the resource issue, and we certainly have some places where you'd be surprised, because when people think of Europe, they don't think of under-resourced areas, but we have some of those. But the spiritual thing, when I tell people that less than 3% of the Europeans are engaged Christ followers, less than 3%.
It's hard to wrap your mind around
716 million people that don't have an active, engaged, commitment to Christ. They just can't relate to that. They think, well, it's sort of Christian because they've seen buildings. But, one of the statements that one of our Czech believers and leaders has said is, I'm helping people to overcome the church they do know to discover the Christ they don't know.
Wow.
And that's a reality that people just go, oh, well, they're Christians over there, right? Because they wouldn't be something else, but it's just not true. And that's the other bubble that most people live in, and they don't understand what it is to work with people that are post-communist, post-Christian, post just about everything in life.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because even in the United States, we're at a time where there's been some concern within the church that we have generations, younger generations, that haven't been raised in a Christian context, and yet when you compare that to the context you're just talking about, there still is a vast chasm.
Yeah. When we talk about in Latin America, our people come to the United States, and they admire so much of North America that's why they come here, and a lot of times in our context, Latinos and Hispanics are falling into that bubble. And they're just kind of getting into that comfort zone. This is good.
The thing that they fall in love with.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And until we get the gospel to them, where then they feel the same passion and desire that I sensed this morning in this wonderful service, just an international service in its totality. Yeah. Not just English, not just Spanish, but in just a representation from all continents.
Yes, absolutely.
We get that passion. And right now our church, our local Hispanic churches are working strongly with one of our missionaries that are in Haiti, and it's trying to get them outside of, we're not even just us, just with Hispanics, but we want to work with the world, with the church, to get the message to the world.
Yeah, very good. I want to talk education here in just a moment, especially what you're doing, Frankie, but I want to remind our listeners that this is being brought to you today by Oklahoma Wesleyan University, and I'd like for you to just listen to a little bit about that institution.
Oklahoma Wesleyan University. a great education, endless activities, and a thriving spiritual atmosphere. We are one of 6 colleges and universities in the state of Oklahoma to earn a spot on the prestigious list of America's best colleges and universities. We're not only committed to helping you grow academically, but we also want to help you grow spiritually. We would love to show you around our beautiful campus so you can see what truly makes this a university where Jesus is Lord every day.
Thanks for watching that and doing us a favor. I tell you what, you can do us a further favor. Follow Oklahoma Wesleyan University, tweet it out, and again, we appreciate their sponsorship for the day. One of the things that, to me, is really exciting in the Wesleyan Church is what Wesley Seminary is doing with the totally Spanish Master of Divinity. Frankie, you're a part of that. There may be someone watching today that has no idea, what that's about. Give them a sense and a flavor of how it's structured and where you are in the program right now.
Well, I just finished my first year in Seminario Wesley, which would be Wesley Seminary, translated out of Indiana Wesleyan University, where they've prepared this program that is completely cultural. It's adapted to Hispanics, those that speak Spanish in the culture, to be able to reach more effectively, better prepared leaders, pastors, and local lay leaders to be able to take the gospel to those in the United States right now here, but that speaks primarily Spanish.
Now, are you doing resident classes? Is it online? Is it a combination of both? What?
It's a combination of both. We'll go 2 weeks and do residency, and then the rest of courses are online.
All right, good. I think, and let's get back to the service this morning. One of the things that has impressed me over the past few years is just the globalization of the world. In other words, if they're having trouble with the European markets, we're going to feel it when the market opens here. No longer is there this idea of localization. I feel like that's part of what we saw today, and part of the passion of H.C. Wilson. And really one of the things, he was very emotional today during this service, and I think that part of this is seeing the church from a vantage point that many of us here in North America don't see. So I think that's why the service was positive. I guess my question to all of you would be, how do we continue that theme, and how do we get people to appreciate that the church is more than the Wesleyan Church here in North America?
I think when you talk about that bubble earlier, one of the bubbles that I think we have in North America is that we really understand all of this, and we've got to help everybody else. They need us because they probably don't understand leadership. They don't understand how to disciple. They don't understand how to raise up true Christ followers. And what we discover is there are leaders all around the world who do differently than us, but actually are having incredible impact. And we're celebrating that and in resourcing where we can, but also now receiving from that in ways I don't think we went in with any kind of mindset to receive before, and in fact we're receiving probably more than we're giving now.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised to hear some of your comments, because it's not a shock to those of us who are more intimately connected with the international church that this is not something that just happened. This has been a long and very intentional strategic process that involves moving forward, sliding back, making adjustments, correcting, changing personnel because of skill sets that are needed to engage national leaders and so forth. A lot of the type A missionaries that we think about when we think about missionary, they were great pioneers. They were not great transition people, and it's taken generations for that process to happen on some of these fields. But those of us who are engaged on a regular basis with these leaders, we've come to understand that many of the strongest leaders in the Wesleyan Church are not found in North America, and you're going to see that more and more. And I'm delighted to tell you the reality is the Wesleyan Church is a truly international church.
Amen.
Yeah,
that's great.
Amen. What a lesson when the bride walks in. That's from outside of the country. That's not even.
How did you like that? I thought. I saw this girl in the wedding dress. I thought, what is it? What is going on? And then as HC is telling the story,
powerful story.
It was a powerful story. I don't know if I know the Wesleyan Church has been streaming this. I hope that they're archiving that, because that was powerful.
Yes.
The bride coming in as a reminder that we're the bride of Christ.
And not a North American bride dressed up today, which was an awesome experience as well.
Yeah, very good.
I also and a very fitting person to play that role. She's an amazing young lady with an incredible ministry gifts, and you're going to hear more about her in the future. She's her dad's one of her dad's right hand people there, and she's a powerful minister in her own right.
Ministering where?
In Colombia. Her father is the pastor who prayed the prayer. The video clip.
Yes. Juan Piñeros.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So
cool. One of the things I thought was so appropriate today is during the communion service, you had people reading scripture in their native tongue.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I'm sitting there and I can't understand a word of it, but it seemed right and it seemed proper.
Yeah.
I think of how many times, all of us, well, I've had the experience of going to another country and I don't understand anything. And it's almost like everyone got that flavor today, and yet in that, there was something very good about it.
Pentecost.
Yeah.
It has been that way before. It will be that way again.
One more thing, and we'll wrap this up. How do you see the present generation? When I say present generation, I'm talking about college, a little older than college. This is just my anecdotal experience, so I want you to push back or add to. It seems to me that their willingness to sacrifice is better than my generation. Their sense of honing in on injustices to see those corrected is heightened. What do you sense? What do you see? What do you feel?
I agree. I think that many of this younger generation are more minimalistic in their living, and they have a different view of how resources should be used. I'm encouraged, frankly. There are issues with unfocused spirituality and that sort of thing. Those things are commonly bandied about, and I think they're true at some level. But I'm excited. I think we're going to see a new level of service and passion for evangelism out of this generation.
Yeah.
If our generation my generation can get a hold of the message of hope and holiness, I think we've got something strong for the Wesleyan Church in the future.
Any experience in your context?
I think one of the things that's so true is that they're open about things. And so even when you talk about the spirituality, in my generation, we sort of cover that and, look good and things. And they're pretty transparent about the whole deal. And I think one of the things that's going to be the challenge for all of us is to find flexible long-term commitments that we can assist them to give their lives to. But it's changing so much. You talk about the globalization. Things are changing so quickly. They're able to travel. They want to travel. And we've got to find delivery systems that make sense. And that's one of the challenges for us in Global Partners, is to find a long-term delivery system that still makes sense in the context. And long-term is going to be defined as much shorter than what we celebrate in Doris Wall, who's been there 47 years or whatever it was.
That's incredible.
And yet it still will have that same level of commitment. It's just a different expression of that. And we've got to embrace that rather than say, well, it's not good. We need that 47-year-old. We're way past that already.
Yeah.
But I think it's an exciting time to live, and I'm excited that they're willing to give themselves to things.
Right. I was real excited in the service today just to see the variety in languages, cultures, countries, and even age groups represented.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, Dan, Dennis, Frankie, thanks for joining me today and joining us here on the Technology Show. Again, we want to remind you that this has been brought to you by Oklahoma Wesleyan University, impacting culture with the Lordship of Jesus Christ. Go to okwu.edu and check them out. Goodbye, everybody.
Oklahoma Wesleyan University, a great education and a thriving spiritual atmosphere. In the classroom, our professors are doing an excellent job. We were recently awarded a prestigious #1 ranking from CBS Money Watch, naming our professors as the best in the nation. Oklahoma Wesleyan University models a Christ-like way of thought, a way of life, and a way of faith. We would love to show you around our beautiful campus so you can see what truly makes this a university where Jesus is Lord every day.